It's a beautiful day in the podcast time, and it's a podcasted day in a neighborhood.
Won't you be a listener?
Are we not funny?
It's a real possibility that I just don't think we've really looked into yet.
It's sort of occurring to me that maybe we're just not funny.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Podcast not funny.
Anyway, whatever. My name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Adeline McMurray. And today I'll be inhabiting the role of Paperboy number 4.
Extra, extra, read all about it. 2 white people not as smart as they think they are.
Why is that your only joke?
I don't know. It's funny. I still think it's funny.
Okay, sure.
So, Adeline.
Jackson.
To celebrate the imminent release of Cats on home video.
Oh, I thought you meant of the 7th seal.
Oh, okay. When did that happen?
You know, like...
Is that about to happen?
Revelations, you know.
I know.
Listen, Jackson, if you're not going to pay attention to the news, then it's not my fault when you're uninformed.
But to celebrate the release of Cats on home video.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if Revelations happened before this podcast went up?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it wouldn't be that funny because I don't think anybody would be listening to it. But
no,
sure.
You know, yeah, I don't know how you post something after Revelations.
Okay, let me do the thing I'm trying to do.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stop talking about the Bible for 2 seconds.
I'm just thinking about the Bible.
To celebrate the imminent release of Cats on home video in a few weeks, I decided I wanted to give you, Adeline McMurray, who has not seen Cats.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to give you a quiz on their names.
Oh, no.
This is going to be a multiple choice test.
I know Rum Tum Tugger.
Okay, good.
Is that the name?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
So the ones I didn't include were the ones that I told you about on our podcast.
Yeah, one of them's a railroad cat, and his name is,
Let's get down to it. Let's get down to it, okay?
Okay.
The first one, here are your options. I'm also going to send these to you in Discord so you can review them if you need to.
Okay, great.
One of these is a real cat in the movie Cats, okay?
A real cat in real life?
Yes. Is the real cat A, the Thimblerer, B, Bombalurina, 3, Grumble Rumpus, or D, Cat?
See, I really hope it's not the Thumblerer.
The Thimblerer.
The Thimblerer. I kind of want it to be Grumple Rumpus. But Cat, you see, they would just be like, and this is fucking Cat. Because we've all had weird, crazy names this whole time. And then here's our friend Cat, and we hate him. Like, that's a real... But I also think it's a red herring. Because their name is just Cat. I really hope it's not the Thimblerer.
What's your answer?
I'm gonna say it's Bombalurina.
You are correct. Taylor Swift does indeed play Bombalurina.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes. Okay, next question. Is the real cat...
Bombalurina.
Is the next cat A, Snufflelumper, B, Puddle Funster, C, Rumpleteaser, or D, Dexter Jetster?
These are all strippers, right? Maybe just Puddle Funster. Or maybe Rumpleteaser. Definitely Rumpleteaser. Oh, God. I think it's Rumpleteaser.
It is Rumpleteaser.
Oh my God, I'm a genius. I'm
you're
a
good
cat's
at this so far.
Prodigy.
Either you're good at this or I'm bad at this.
It's because
Okay.
it's because Rumpelteazer is the worst one. So I was like, that's gotta be it. Because that one just sounds like you were a teaser of a rumple, and that's an innuendo, and that sucks.
Okay.
Do you think Taylor Swift has any regrets just about her whole situation?
No comment. Is the real cat Jumbo Terry?
Oh my god, I love Jumbo Terry.
Jumbo Terry, Wumbo Larry, Mungo Jerry, or Gumbo Mary?
It's not Wumgo Larry, because that's SpongeBob. And Jumbo Terry is almost a coherent thought, so it's not that. Oh, I can't decide between Mungo Jerry and Gumbo Mary. I'm gonna say Mungo Jerry.
You are correct. Mungo Jerry is in the film Cats. You're 3 for 3 so far.
Why am I a genius? Why do I win?
This one's I think you might just know.
Okay.
Is the real cat Skimbleshanks the junkyard cat, Skimbleshanks the railway cat,
Okay, well.
Skimbleshanks the theater cat, or Skimbleshanks the well-endowed cat?
There is a junkyard cat and there is a railway cat, and I'm like pretty sure there's a theater cat, but they're all theater cats, right? Because they're all singing and dancing. Does one of them have a discrete personality as the fact that they sing? Because that just ruins everything. I
don't know, you tell me.
Oh god. You see, as funny as the well-endowed cat is, there's no way that's real. Like, right? There's no way, right? Hey, Jackson, there's no way, right?
I don't know.
Please, for the love of God, tell me there's not a cat named Skimbleshanks the well-endowed cat. It's Skimbleshanks. No, that's the one that you love. It's the railway cat, and that's not Skimbleshanks. It's either, I don't think it's theater. I think it's the junkyard cat.
You are wrong. It is Skimbleshanks the railway cat.
Oh, okay, I got it wrong. Because I
thought you would have gotten that one because you mentioned the railway cat already.
Yeah, no, I forgot his name was Skimbleshanks. I thought it was something funnier than Skimbleshanks, which is why you love him so much.
Okay, so this is the final question, okay?
Okay.
You can go 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Is the real cat Victoria, Elizabeth,
oh my god,
Mary, or Snuggle McPumpkins?
Is it Snuggle McPumpkins?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I know it's a trick. I know it's one of these regular ass names, but I just really wanted it to be Snuggle McPumpkins.
No, it is Victoria. Victoria is
I
the
knew.
lead
I
of the
kind of.
movie.
We've been new. I just really wanted it to be Snuggle McPumpkins. That's my warrior cats OC. Snuggle Big Lightning Pumpkins.
So you got 3 out of 5, but you kind of threw the last one.
Yeah.
I thought you would catch on that Dexter Jettster is a character from Star Wars.
How would I know that?
He's in Attack of the Clones. He's the guy who runs the smelly diner that Obi-Wan goes to.
There's no way in hell I would know who that guy is. He just looks like the guy from Robots to me.
No, he's in Lego Star Wars. Remember when you go, like, the hub is like that 50s diner in space?
Remember in Robots when the little kid can't afford to grow up, so he's just a washing machine for a little bit?
Oh, that's right. It's a weird movie.
Yeah, that's
Ewan
what that
McGregor's
movie's
in
about.
that movie. Ewan McGregor's in both Attack of the Clones and Robots. Isn't that crazy?
Robots is a good. Let's fucking watch Robots. Robots is having like a resurgence, and I'm down for it.
Right, for sure. No, it's Robots is one of those movies that like kind of never really caught on, but was still like one of those like home video movies that like a lot of people just had because I'm sure it was in the bargain zones at every store in the world.
There were a lot of like big names in it though. Like it was a Robin Williams movie.
No, yeah, it was Robin Williams and Ewan McGregor and Mel Brooks and who was the bad guy?
Oh, he's somebody.
Robots movie. Hold on just a sec. Okay, so we've got Halle Berry was the girl.
Oh, girl.
Paula Abdul was somebody.
Was she Piper? Or, oh no, was she Fanny?
I doubt Paula. No, she wasn't. So yeah, I don't remember the characters well enough to describe who they are based on the names. Maybe I should play another game where I quiz you on the names of the robots in Robots.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay. I feel like you would know him. I feel like we know him too well.
Well, you don't know them, and I literally only know that the yellow girl's name is Piper, and that's it.
Okay. I'm gonna go backwards because I'm just coming up with on the spot. 3 of them are real and 1 of them is fake. You have to guess the fake one. Okay.
Okay.
Is the fake person Rodney Copperbottom, Crank? Hold on. Watch, or I'm looking through the names. Hold on, I gotta find another good one.
Okay, so this one is the real.
A lot of these are pretty good. A fire hydrant. Wait, I forgot to come up with a fake one. God damn it.
It's not Watch. Somebody's named Watch.
Somebody's named Watch. Paula Abdul's character is just named Watch.
Is that the little puppet guy that won't let him in the door?
I don't know. I don't remember. Terry Bradshaw plays Broken Arm Robot.
Don't we all?
So, Adeline, what movie did you choose for us to speak about today?
I did not explicitly say, let's watch whatever it is in the neighborhood. It was like,
yes,
what movies were coming out? And you were like, It's a Wonderful Day in the Neighborhood was coming out. And I was like, okay, let's watch that one. And we were like, okay. I wasn't like...
you said that! That's you making the decision that we were going to do it!
Yes, I did make that decision, but it wasn't like... it came to my head. It was like, what movies are coming out that would be relevant in the public conscience? And I was like... And you were like, one of them is A Lovely Day in the Neighborhood. And I was like, alright, we'll do that one.
Adeline...
Yes.
I can't figure out whether or not you not knowing the phrase beautiful day in the neighborhood is a bit or not, and if it's not, I'm very concerned about you.
A bluggerdy day in the neighborhood.
Because that is a very common phrase from a song that we already have sung in this podcast episode.
Okay, but here's the thing.
And for some reason, you can't get a hold of it.
Here's the thing. I never watched Mr. Rogers. Like, Mr. Rogers was, like, before my time. So I've got zero nostalgia for this movie.
But you know the phrase, beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I know the phrase, a fantastic day in the house area.
I'm gonna kill you.
Okay. I understand, but why?
I don't know. This movie was sort of one of the, like, Oscar season movies this year.
Yeah.
That never quite, like, broke through into, like, the Best Picture races, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Hanks got Best Supporting Actor nomination, so that's something. But, I don't know. I had sort of been putting it off. This was the first time that I'd seen it, too. And it's a pretty good movie.
It's got a lot of, like, really pretty shots in it and does a lot of really cool things creatively. Because what happened is that there was, like, an actual documentary about Mr. Rogers that came out before this movie came out. So I guess I kind of just expected this, not to be a documentary, but to definitely be, like, a more, like, kind of fantastical, like, biopic, kind of how, like, Saving Mr. Banks was, like, a biopic. Like, I expected it to be Saving Mr. Banks, is basically what I thought it was going to be. And then when it's weirdly not about Mr. Rogers, and I think
it's not a biopic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's its own story. It's, like, telling a story through Mr. Rogers, kind of as Mr. Rogers, like, the way that he tells stories on the show, but, like, also he's just, like, another character in it. Like, I don't know. It's really interesting.
Right. Did you watch any of the Oscars this year?
I didn't.
Right at the beginning, for, like, the opening musical number, Janelle Monáe came out on stage in like a Mr. Rogers outfit and sang a little bit of Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
But like after that, she like took off the sweater and the button-up shirt and was in like a different like showy or like more dancey outfit.
Yeah.
But when she came out, I guess they were in a hurry or something because she like missed the middle two buttons on her button-up shirt. And every time she would move in this Mr. Rogers costume, like her breasts would just like totally like come out of the front of her shirt. And it was like, this is weird. I'm not into this. Why is it happening this way?
Okay, sexy Bob Ross Halloween costumes have been a thing. Are like sexy Mr. Rogers costumes like coming into the public consciousness?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
that's not it wasn't on purpose. It was just like
it's just how it had happened.
Yeah, it's like they missed a couple of buttons and you could just like see her bare skin through the middle two buttons of her shirt as she was like, oh, isn't it? We should appreciate this wonderful man who did so much for so many children. I was like, this is weird. I'm not into it. Anyway.
You're right, but well.
Anyway, I was just thinking about that at the beginning.
What was your second favorite Oscars wardrobe malfunction, Jackson?
My second favorite Oscars wardrobe malfunction was when Kristen Wiig.
Everything that Kristen Wiig was wearing
fell down last year. Last year, Kristen Wiig fell down, and I thought that was very funny.
How many people have fallen down at the Oscars?
That didn't happen. I made that up.
How many people I know Jennifer Lawrence fell down that one year, and everyone was like, oh my god, she's so quirky.
I don't even remember that. Okay, you know what? It kind of bothered me weirdly this year about the Oscars. I mean, there's a lot to be bothered about, but for some reason, we're still doing jokes about 4 years ago when they read the wrong name, and we're still doing jokes about 6 years ago when John Travolta said a funny name instead of Idina Menzel. Why can't we get over those things?
Like,
why are we still doing these jokes?
Them saying the wrong name. You got two people that are old as dust to read and read off who the winner was, and it's not even their fault because you gave them the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're on stage on the Oscars, and it's like, we don't know what to do, and we already don't know what's going on because we're old as dust. So they're just trying to save face, and then everyone's gonna make fun of them for the rest of forever, and it's not fair.
And like, I don't know, it's like now in the 2020 Oscar ceremony, they're like, oh, and the winner is, ooh, I sure hope I don't read the wrong name. And you're like, why? Why can't we come up with new things to joke about?
Yeah, like, people are writing these jokes, right? Like, get better writers. I know who's not winning the Oscar for Best Writer. It's whoever wrote the Oscars.
Oh, damn. I don't think they ever have, actually.
No.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Probably not.
Anyway. This movie, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, I don't know, this was just, like, a much more interesting movie than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when there's, like, a biopic that, like, sort of posits itself as, like, a big awards movie and, like, never really gets super popular, usually that just means it's boring.
Yeah,
right?
that just means that it was bad.
So, like, before awards season really started in earnest, I was like, I gotta see Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I was like, this is one of the movies I gotta make sure I end up actually going and seeing.
Yeah.
And then I didn't end up doing it. I missed it. And, like, for a while, I was like, man, I feel like I missed my opportunity with that one. Like, I probably should have seen that for, like, the Golden Globes and the Oscars. But then all the nominations started coming out, and it wasn't getting, like, a lot of nominations. And I was like, oh, it's probably bad then. But actually, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Sorry that you think you're so smart because you read the Oscar nominations.
I love the intro to this movie, where it's like, you know, Tom Hanks comes out, he's Mr. Rogers, and he's like, this is my picture board, and he, like, opens up, like, the pictures and shows them, and then he gets to one, and he opens it up, and it's, like, this guy with this, like, bruise on his face, and he's like, this is my friend Lloyd, and it, like, weirdly feels like it's about to turn into, like, a John Wick movie for a second.
It feels like it's gonna turn into a horror movie for a second. Like, it's a weird energy. Because the way that they frame this movie, I think, is really fun and interesting and cool. That they kind of frame it like it in itself is a Mr. Rogers episode,
which I
is
love.
really interesting. So like all of the like tracking shots of like travel or like Eternity Today or Train Tonight are all like on the little miniatures that they like use on the show. Or like they have a segment where they just do like a how it's made on magazines for like a minute. I gotta admit, I was really down for. I was like,
yeah, it's cool.
I want to see how they made that. And then like it's just like it makes a lot of really cool decisions that I didn't think it was gonna. And there are a lot of really pretty shots, like because it opens up as like an episode of the Mr. Rogers TV show, and he's like, meet my friend Lloyd, and it's like just like this guy, and then you just like. Then the movie's just about Lloyd, and you're like, okay. I didn't know this movie was about Lloyd. I thought it was about Mr. Rogers.
No, yeah, and I don't know. I'm really fascinated by like the position that this movie takes on Mr. Rogers, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like, it's not necessarily like, taking him down a peg or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's more realistic in the sense that it's like, this guy is like so kind and so compassionate and so wonderful that he just ends up being really annoying and kind of a pain in the ass for everybody around him.
Yeah.
Like, which is, I don't know, it's kind of cool. And like, because, you know, it's not like it's trying to like take a new stance or anything. It's just like, yeah, he was incredible. But all the producers fucking hated him because he couldn't stop being nice to people on set long enough to fucking get the show made.
To record the show, yeah.
It's just kind of cool. And, you know, the guy is like interviewing him and he's like saying all these things, and he gets like frustrated because he's like, I don't buy it. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Like, I don't get it. I don't get this. And he like is like weirdly like threatened by him. You know.
Yeah.
And it's
and especially when this is just like, I don't know, just like the way that they do Mr. Rogers is just like so accurate. That's like, I know like 12 old men like this. That are just like, they care so much that they just don't care about like the social rules of like not talking about certain things.
Right. So
when they sit down and Mr. Rogers is immediately like, I've been praying for you and your father, and like how everything's going with your father, and Lloyd is like, bye, see you later. I don't want to talk about this. Like, it's just like, it's very accurate, because there are like kind old men that are just like, so how are you doing? And you're like, I don't know how real to get with you right now.
Right, yeah. Okay, so the other guy, who's the actor's name I can never remember.
Sad face emoji man.
Yeah.
He's just got the saddest face.
He was really not working for me for a lot of the movie.
Did you not like him?
No. I mean, he gets better as the movie goes on, which is, I know is a weird thing to say because obviously movies aren't shot in order, and I don't know what his actual timeline was.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I was just getting used to him, or it really is like his worst stuff just happens to be at the beginning. But like at the beginning of this movie, I was just like, this guy sucks. Like, the character sucks, but also this performance is so like weirdly stilted, and he just feels like he's reading lines all the time. And he like goes into the office, and the lady's like, I want you to do a piece on Mr. Rogers. And he's like, I don't write puff pieces. I do hard-hitting journalism. And you're like, fuck off. That is this, like, even if you're a real person, that sucks to say. And if you're not, like, that is just lame writing. And I was like, I hate this. Like,
well,
this guy, I don't know.
The way that I see it is that that's kind of the point, because he changes as he goes and he gets better, like, as a person. But, like, I think that's also, like, an acting decision, because he definitely goes from being, like, a one-dimensional person because he's not talking about any of his feelings to becoming a really three-dimensional person at the end of the movie. So I think at the beginning of the movie, for him to be like, I write hard-hitting journalism, and that's it. And to be like, my dad, I got a bad relationship with my dad. And then it's like, that's all he is. And I think that's okay. I think it like mirrors what's going on with the character.
Right. And I also didn't buy the scene at the wedding. I was like, this weird escalation doesn't make sense to me, and like just the way you're acting towards everybody around you seems weird, and I don't get it.
Well, what I thought, especially because they do this really cool thing where like anytime he like sees his dad or people talk about his dad, he gets like this ringing in his ears.
Right.
So I really thought that his dad had like beat him as a kid or something, but when it turned out that he had just been an absent, crappy father while his mom was dying, I was kind of like, I like, not to say that that's not terrible and that you shouldn't be mad, but like I really expected it to be something way worse because he was treating it as something way worse.
And I feel like, like I said, the movie does, like you said, get more nuanced as it goes along, and that's kind of part of it. But, like, I don't know, for some reason, especially, like, also at the beginning when he's, like, kind of riffing with his wife about, like, oh, and we're going to go to, I look forward to her weddings every year. You're like, I don't buy this. Stop it. I don't know. But, I don't know, it gets better, and so I shouldn't be complaining about it too much. But for the first, like, 20 minutes at least, I was like, God damn it, I hate this guy. Like, whoever this is, obviously you wanted to get Ed Norton. I wish you had just gotten Ed Norton.
Like, don't be mean.
But then he got better. I don't know. I don't know him from anything else. I can't say. I just didn't like him in this movie. Until he got better. I don't know. Even still, towards the end, I sometimes was like, I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. I never like not liked him. I think I understood what he was going through the whole time. I'm kind of talking about him as an actor and as a character, kind of like at the same time. So excuse me as I try to separate the two. I think that's just the way that I look at movies. I tend to focus a lot more on the character, and I don't really notice the actor unless the actor is like doing a bad job,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of the point that like I shouldn't see the actor more than I see the character. So like I don't know, when he was like acting one-dimensionally, I wasn't like, oh, that's the actor doing the bad job. I was like, oh, Lloyd is a very one-dimensional guy and he's gonna become three-dimensional,
Mm-hmm, right. And I mean, then that's true. I don't know. I just didn't like his performance. We don't need to harp on this for any longer than we need to. Because I've said everything I need to say, and I'm trying to find an out, and I can't think of a good transition, so I'm just saying the same mean thing I already said over and over again.
Yeah. Okay, this is just weird. I always thought that Mr. McFeely was black, but apparently he's not, and now I don't know what I'm thinking of.
No, I think the milkman was black.
Somebody was black.
There was like a milkman who would show up and he was black, I believe.
Okay, maybe I'm getting them confused. Because I was like, I really thought Mr. McFeely was black. And then he showed up and he wasn't. And I had to be like, is that okay? And I was like, oh, he was never black? Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, I don't know. We already kind of talked about him at that moment where he opens up one of the pictures and it's like a guy with like a facial injury. Being like, he's having trouble forgiving. You almost wanted to like hard cut to like a police chase or something.
Yeah. Like it felt like a parody, like immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but it's cool. Like it's a weird thing. And especially, and they, obviously they get sort of wacky and weird with the format of his show.
Yeah.
A couple of different times in the movie. But right at the beginning, it's like, I don't know. It's weird, but it's also kind of cool. Like it is definitely on purpose,
Yeah.
Like it's like clearly taking you outside of what you expect it to be,
Yeah. Yeah, like it's I don't know if it's just societies like want to pervert things that are inherently innocent, like children's shows. And by pervert, I don't mean like sexualize. I mean like make edgy. Like anytime you see a video that's like, oh, it's Mario but with a gun, like that. Like I think it's because we're so used to those type of parodies that whenever they kind of like talked about the format like in a meta way, I just expected that meta way to be like, oh, but actually it's not innocent. But that like kind of wasn't what it was at all. The like meta narrative was kind of like it even like the fantasy land of Mr. Rogers' show like affects the real world, and the real world looks like this, and it seems weird and scary compared to the fantasy world, but like it's really not. That's just what the world is. Right.
Here's my take on it. Because especially later, we can just get into it now. There's this whole sequence where like the movie turns into a weird psychological thriller.
Yeah, right? that part's weird.
I love that part. I love that part where like all of a sudden like he's being like haunted by Mr. Rogers and like sees him like, everywhere, and he has these weird nightmares where he's like inside the Mr. Rogers show and can't handle it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that like it feels like that, but all the iconography is purely Mr. Rogers. There's this
Yeah.
sequence where he has this like nightmare and he wakes up and it's like, bah! You know, but it's like everything they show you is just like really sweet little things that Mr. Rogers did to him the day before.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be sort of unsettling and scary, but I think what they're trying to say is just that like we all live in the world and we're so beat down by it that when we're confronted with something that really is so pure and so good, we are kind of afraid of it. We kind of reject it and we don't really understand it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're making Mr. Rogers kind of scary in a way, without making him explicitly scary to watch, but like the way that we engage with it is kind of upsetting because we're like, we want to disengage, like it makes us uncomfortable, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, because I think Lloyd does the exact same thing. Because, like, him being, like, the hard-hitting journalist is, like, a thing. But what he does is that he goes out into the world and picks out the worst of humanity. So it's just, like, all he does all day long. And then it's like, you gotta do something on Mr. Rogers. He's like, all right, how does this guy, like, actually suck, even though he's supposed to be a nice guy?
Right.
And when he's just, like, so nice, just so uncomfortably, amazingly nice, it's just, like, he just wants to disengage immediately, because it's, like, ew.
And it makes him feel, like, threatened, I think, you know? Because it's, like, you know, he has, whatever, like, he's picking out the horrible people in the world, because I'm sure it makes him feel better about himself and his whole deal, you know?
Yeah.
To be able to, because you are, you know, doing good in that sort of way when you're like finding out about the worst people and calling them out and doing exposés about horrible things. But, you know, it's just a different sort of, you have to engage differently with people who are doing really wonderful things and who are really wonderful and kind. I think it makes him self-conscious and uncomfortable about the way he's been living his life, seeing somebody who's that genuine and so pure, you know? And I think that's, you know, what you're afraid of. You want to disengage with it because you don't like having this model of what you could be doing better, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it feels weird to compliment the movie about this, because I'm sure this is at least partially based on a real conversation that happened. But when he's talking to Mr. Rogers' wife, and she's like, I don't like calling him a living saint, because that makes it feel like you can never do what he's doing. And the point is that you could absolutely be doing what he's doing. And just for whatever reason you don't want to, or you're unable to. But, like, it's a completely attainable thing to do.
Right.
And that scares people.
Right, no, it does. And especially because it is difficult, you know? It's something that we all would want to be, but it's not just as easy as just being it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just do that. Why aren't you just doing that?
But, okay, so here's something I wrote down. I don't remember what I was thinking when I wrote it down, so let's take this apart for a moment.
Just trying to figure out what you were thinking when you wrote it down.
Yeah, I wrote down, this is like Venom, except instead of Venom, it's Mr. Rogers. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm really trying to figure out what you're talking about.
They're both, like, hard-hitting journalists.
Yeah.
And then they, like, get haunted by this external force that changes their lives, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of a half-thought-out
There's a lot less sexual tension in this movie than there is in Venom.
Right, that's true.
I mean, you're right. I do... Jesus. I think the point that really makes that come across is, like, when he's, like... his dad has had the heart attack and he's like leaving the hospital and going to Pittsburgh, and he just like keeps seeing Mr. Rogers and like all the reflections and keeps like trying to like see him, and he's not seeing him. Like, I get it. Like, that's very Venom.
Very Venom. Maybe I was right. Maybe this movie is Venom, except maybe this movie with Mr. Rogers. I'm gonna write that dissertation, I think. When I go back to get my doctorate, I'm gonna be like, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and Venom. It's the same movie? Let's dig into it. And I'll be like, they're not the same movie, but sometimes they're similar. Maybe I'll put that on IMDb trivia.
Did you know that this movie is kind of like Venom?
Kind of like Venom, about it. In a lot of interesting ways.
It's a lot less homoerotic, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But yeah, I wrote down regarding this guy's performance that it feels like me whenever I try to act on camera.
So you're just gonna roast yourself real quick.
Well, I mean, it's just like the truth, because I'm not an actor and I don't have the skill set. I don't have the talent for it. And I do it and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like that went pretty good. And then I watch it and I'm like, oh no, I'm not into this. This doesn't feel natural and it's no good. That's how I felt when I was watching this guy in the first half hour of the movie. Anyway, I love the moment where he asks him about the difference between himself and Mr. Rogers, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's like a perfectly reasonable line of thinking, you know? Like, he has this persona on the show, but it's, you know, different than him in reality. And he would say, like, oh, so, like, you know, what do you have to do to, like, get into this mindset? How do you sort of get in character or whatever it is? Like, how do you differ from this, like, persona that you've put out? And Mr. Rogers is, like, weirdly almost kind of offended by the question, you know?
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting. And, like, that first interview is so cool because, like, you've never really met him before and you're, like, talking to him for the first time.
Yeah.
And you want him to sort of, like, break the facade, you know? You want him to, like, sit down and be like, oh, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? No, yeah, you know, I just do the show or whatever. Like, that's what you kind of want him to say, you know?
Yeah.
You still want him to be cool and nice, but you want him to, like...
In, like a
disengage.
relatable way. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But he's just, like, so goddamn sincere and wholesome all the time. Like... You wish he would just, like, get a beer with you or something. But
just, he will not.
He absolutely won't. And that moment, this is just in the same vein, like, later, where they're at the diner, and he's like, I want 60 seconds of silence to remember all the people that loved you into being. And they sit there and they give you that 60 seconds, and you get that, like, slow zoom in on Tom Hanks's face as he's just making eye contact with you, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to, like, be this journalist who's sitting there and just be like, just like, dude, like, you are the best of humanity, but can you knock it off, though, please?
I just need you to confront Mr. Rogers real quick.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know, it's such a cool take on this guy and, like, the way he interacted with the world, you know?
Yeah. What I really like about Lloyd as the main character is that it's a depiction of fatherhood that I don't think I've, like, seen this, like, specific depiction of before. Like, I feel like there's a lot of narratives of, like, men becoming fathers and kind of having to, like, figure out how to be a father, and this is a version of that. But this is, like, a father who's, like, there and present and in a healthy relationship and, like, has a good job and is, like, here and present and is still, like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's just a very cool version of, like, something I think we've seen before, but being, like, he's set up, like, he's got all the right cards, but because of stuff that's happened to him in the past, for some reason, he's still got all those hang-ups. And it's like he's got an amazing relationship with his wife, and he's got a great relationship with his kid, but yet he's still like, I don't want to be doing the baby stuff. I would rather be working.
Totally. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like you just relate to him in that moment because, like, I don't know. When he talks to Mr. Rogers, he's just like, I don't get it. Like, at first. And you as an audience kind of just also don't get it. You're like, what's this guy's deal? And
why
you have to
sort of stop smiling.
Right, exactly. And you have to, like, sort of learn how to engage with that, you know? I love that Mr. Rogers just calls him at home the next day, too.
Yeah.
And, like, they pick up the phone and they're just like, hi, who is this? And he's like, oh, this is Fred Rogers. And you're like, oh.
How did you get this number?
Yeah. You're like, okay, yeah, hi, what's up? How's it going?
Yeah.
And that's the first time they do the like nightmare where he's getting these horrible flashes of, like, Mr. Rogers and his little puppets just, like, doing cute things, and then he, like, wakes up in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
They're like talking about him, and they're like, this is my friend Lloyd, and they're like, when mommy and daddy get a divorce, it means they still love you. And it's like, oh man, this guy's got psychological problems.
But yeah, I don't know, and I like that Lloyd sort of just learns to take take Mr. Rogers more seriously, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of differences between like how he interacts with him like from interview to interview. The first time he's just like, "Oh, what's it like having a kids show? What's your public persona? How's it different from your real life?" And he's just like, I don't know, he's this guy who does a TV show, you know, I'll ask him those kinds of questions. And then like he slowly starts to like sort of take him more seriously, be like, "Oh, this is a guy who really cares really deeply about a lot of things and like has something to say." And he starts asking him questions that are more like, "That must be a really heavy burden for you because people really, really trust you with those kinds of things." And Mr. Rogers, like, no matter what he's asking him, it seems like Mr. Rogers never quite just gives him a straight answer, you know?
Yeah.
He always like starts to deflect and like turn around on him and start asking him questions instead. And like, I don't know how to engage with that, because it's sort of part of Mr. Rogers' whole deal was about like, you know, expressing yourself in a healthy way. And like, it's okay to have emotions and be sad and be angry, but what's important is that you have a healthy way to express yourself and do that kind of thing. And for me to have him ask Mr. Rogers those questions that are like harder questions that make you engage with those sides of yourself a little bit, the fact that he doesn't want to engage and sort of deflects makes me feel like he's, you know, like not engaging with his emotions in a healthy way, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that.
What I took it as was that it wasn't Rogers trying to deflect a question because he didn't want to deal with answering it. It was more like it was obvious that Lloyd was asking those questions for kind of the wrong reasons.
Right.
Like when you said like he starts like actually like realizing that he's like got something to say, with the way that he asked the questions, it made it seem like I need to dig deeper in order to break this facade. Not that there isn't a facade, but that it's a more complicated facade than just a mean guy pretending to be nice, you know?
Right, yeah.
So when he asks him questions like that, the fact that Mr. Rogers doesn't give him a straight answer, I think it's making Lloyd work harder to create his own opinion of Mr. Rogers than it is Mr. Rogers just giving him a straight answer for, like, what he's thinking.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna say it like 100 times, but I love the weird part of this movie where all of a sudden, like, it's this weird, like, psychological thriller where, like, his dad has a heart attack and he goes to the hospital and he's like, "Oh, I'm so freaked out. I want to go to work. I gotta go interview Mr. Rogers." And all of a sudden he, like, sees the puppets everywhere and, like,
he like has a dream. Well, he like gets to the studio and has this weird dream where he's like on the show, and then he passes out, and then he wakes up at Mr. Rogers' house. Like,
and like,
is there an interpretation of this movie where he like never actually met Mr. Rogers? Because I like that one.
It's just all in his head.
Yeah, just every single second of it.
And then, like, you know, he's in the castle and he's tiny talking to the puppets, and giant Mr. Rogers shows up and is like,
"Yeah,
I want you to say, I like you." He's like, "No."
Well, and I think, like, as silly and, like, good as it is, like, I think it really is that, like, these, like, really simple, innocent ideas can be really, really difficult for some people sometimes.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, they talk about it with the Mr. Rogers show all the time. It's like Mr. Rogers, like, openly, like, talked about death and, like, change and divorce and all those things. And children were able to handle it because Mr. Rogers knew how to handle it. But the reason that he was talking about it at all is because he saw adults that couldn't handle it. He was like, how do I make sure that these children can handle it when it does happen?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Adeline, do you want to get into some trivia time?
Oh, God, this trivia is going to suck.
No, okay. I basically only have one gag here. Usually newer movies don't have as much, but I found some good stuff here.
After they've been out for like 10 years, that's when you get the good trivia.
Did you know this production was made possible with the support of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Did you know Sony Pictures Entertainment and its whole-owned film divisions did not receive any payment or other consideration for the depiction of tobacco products in this film? Did you know that no animals were harmed in the making of this film?
These aren't fun facts. These are just facts.
In loving memory of Jim Emswiller.
So just to be clear, somebody just read the credits.
The credits, yep.
And put it on IMDb. Did you know that no animals were harmed in the making of this film? It's not a trivia question.
I know, it's so good.
Because that's true of all films today.
And they put the, like, in memoriam of, like, the one guy who died while they were on production of this movie in the trivia.
This is what Jerry would have wanted. I just like to imagine that you're sitting there in a theater watching like a totally like regular movie, and then you get to the end of the credits and it's like animals were harmed in the making of this movie, and you just have to like sit there and think of what animal and when.
Right. We were paid by big tobacco companies. We got a bunch of money from the tobacco companies.
So much money.
They hired us to hurt some animals.
My name is Marvel, and the U.S. military did give me a lot of money.
The big tobacco companies, they paid us to hurt animals. How do you feel about that?
How do you feel
you're like,
about
that? No, I like this movie so much.
You just paid money for that. This is your fault. And then Mr. Rogers follows you home, and then you have to go to Pittsburgh.
Mr. Rogers haunts your dreams.
Yeah. Do you want to know the most useless thing that I wrote down in my notes that seemed like a good idea at the time, but now it doesn't help me in any capacity?
Yeah.
I wrote down, there are a lot of really pretty shots in this movie. Like, there are. I don't even know what that was in reference to, but there are a lot of really pretty shots in this movie.
But yeah, and it's weird that, like, because especially in the format of, like, a biopic, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
Part of what you want when you see a movie like this is you kind of want an expose, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to go in and, like, see this side of them that you didn't get to see as an onlooker when you just, like, admired them, you know? Mm-hmm. It is sort of, in a weird sort of way, I think this engages with your expectations as an audience member of what you want this movie to be, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And this movie's kind of saying, like, there's not a big story, you know?
Yeah.
He just is exactly kind of who you think he is. And
yeah, like,
that's
everything you've heard about Mr.
with.
Rogers is just, like, absolutely right. And,
right.
Like, he probably did a lot more cool things than you thought he did.
If anything, he's cooler and better than you thought.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and I don't know, because especially now when, like, there's a great quote from Patrick H. Willems where he talks about how, like, in the system that Hollywood has set up right now, where practically everything has to be, like, based on a property, the last things that are, like, consistently profitable without being, like, action franchises are biopics, because, you know, see, like, Elton John has just as much brand recognition as Lego or Marvel does, you know?
Oh,
so they can
everybody...
bank on you going to see the Queen movie, even though it's not technically based on anything, it's just a true story, but, like, it has that level of brandedness just inherently in it, you know?
Everybody knows that one girl whose whole personality is just the fact that she likes the Beatles. We all know that one girl.
Right, but I don't see how that's relevant to what I was saying, but sure, yes.
Well, because, like, people will go and see that because, like, it's not... Like, people, like, have, like, fandoms and, like base their lives around, like, franchises like Harry Potter and Marvel or whatever. But, like, people are just as fanatic about celebrities, even if it's, like, not connected to anything. Like, we all know that one person who's, like, Marilyn Monroe is their identity, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. How long do you think until we get a J.K. Rowling biopic?
Maybe never. I think she's been canceled.
But I don't think that's even necessarily part of it, right? You can make biopics about people who are canceled. I think that...
Does Hitler count as canceled?
Hitler got so canceled, Adeline. He killed himself because he was so canceled.
He couldn't handle it.
We canceled him so bad, he took his own life.
This is problematic.
I don't think so. Chris
hope
Hemsworth.
not.
I'm just saying that Chris Hemsworth is playing Hulk Hogan in the Hulk Hogan biopic next year.
That's true. Hulk Hogan did get canceled.
Yeah. But I don't even necessarily think it would just be like, oh, they were so great. I think I would totally go see a movie that's like engaging with like the story of how she wrote Harry Potter, but then like jumped to 10 years later when she like can't keep her fingers out of it and like is slowly sort of like tarnishing her brand by like just not being able to keep her mouth shut, you know?
Yeah.
That's an arc to a story I would watch.
I want a Comedy Central roast, but it's a movie with a plot.
Right.
Like,
I don't think
that's what I want the Hulk Hogan biopic to be. Just
right,
like, this guy fucking sucks. That's
I have
just
not
the whole movie.
I gotta figure out what's the deal with the Hulk Hogan biopic. Because the fact that Chris Hemsworth is playing him is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But let me just add some details here.
Let me just Google some dreamy pictures of Chris Hemsworth.
So, cast. I want to know who is like directing it. Oh fuck! You know who's directing it?
Who?
Todd
J.K.
Phillips.
Rowling? Who?
Todd Phillips.
Oh, okay.
So, hey, it's probably not going to be about how bad Hulk Hogan is, huh?
Whoops. Whoopsie poopsie.
The director of Joker and The Hangovers and etc. Yeah.
Whoopsie. Oopsie
I was
doodle.
kind of excited about this, but now maybe I'm thinking maybe this won't be as cool as I hoped it was.
Oopsie.
In my head, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be kind of like a Big Short kind of thing, where it's like, oh, this scathing satire of like this like telling of this true story. But
it might still be that.
It could be. I don't know. I guess we'll see. How much awareness does Todd Phillips have of how bad of a person Hulk Hogan is?
Yeah, Todd Phillips is going to draw a line in the sand, and where he draws that, we'll just have to wait in horror to find out.
Remember when Joker came out, and he just, like, kept doing interviews about how it's impossible to be funny anymore because of PC culture, and he just wouldn't stop doing them. Remember that?
Like, buddy, like you didn't even make a comedy. How can you? Like,
I know. He's like so hung up on it that it's not even relevant.
It's not relevant to the Joker at all.
Maybe that's what the Joker was really about. Maybe he feels like the Joker because
you can't make any jokes anymore. You can't shoot anybody on live TV anymore because of PC culture.
That Robert De Niro represents PC culture in the Joker.
Yeah.
Or no, wait, maybe Thomas Wayne represents PC culture.
Maybe Alfred represents PC culture.
Was that Alfred?
I thought it was Alfred. I think the subtitles said it was Alfred.
Anyway,
it could have been
Phillips,
anybody.
Cool
it wasn't important that it was Alfred, but you can say it's Alfred.
Right. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the verdict is Todd Phillips, cool guy. Love him.
Best guy. Whoopsie.
So, did you know, Adeline, that apparently Tom Hanks and Mr. Rogers are sixth cousins?
Isn't everybody like eighth cousins?
Yeah. So that was a bit that I was looking at when I was looking through like trivia and sort of reading up on this movie. People are like, oh, Tom Hanks has played people he's related to 3 different times because he's similarly distantly related to both Walt Disney and the guy he played in The Post. But
hey,
it's like,
I think everybody might just be 6 cousins.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, that doesn't seem that crazy to me.
If you're an old white dude, I think you're probably 6 cousins with Walt Disney also.
Right. And someday when Tom Hanks plays me in a Jackson McMurray biopic, they'll be like, oh, this is the 4th time because Jackson McMurray and Tom Hanks are actually 8th cousins. And I'll be like, oh, shit, really?
Oh, cool. But you'll be dead, and Tom Hanks will be alive
That's
and well because he's been cryogenically frozen this whole time.
Right. Adeline, did you know that we're second cousins with Garth Brooks?
Oh my god.
That's true. Because I don't think second cousins is right, but you've heard this story before, right?
Probably.
Because our Grandma Joy and Garth Brooks' mom were cousins. And that means that our grandparents write letters to Garth Brooks all the time, trying to get his attention.
God.
And I don't think he's ever responded.
Are we not related to the McMurray NASCAR driver? Or is that just a fun coincidence?
I don't think we are. I don't think so. Jamie McMurray. What are some other good McMurrays?
us, and I think that's it.
I felt like there was one other good McMurray.
Can we get Jamie McMurray on the podcast as our
God, that
third
would
sibling?
rule. We should get Garth Brooks on the podcast.
But his last name isn't McMurray.
Let's see. I'm just gonna Google McMurray and see what comes up.
If you Google my full name, like 4 pictures down, at least in middle school when I did this, when I just Googled my name in Google Images, like 4 images down, there's just like a topless woman just like on Google Images, and I don't know why.
That just happens sometimes.
That just happens sometimes.
Okay, so when I Googled the
shit.
word McMurray, the first thing that comes up is Murray McMurray Hatchery.
We gotta go there.
Hatching the highest quality chickens. And they offer free shipping. I don't understand what's going on.
Are they gonna
here.
ship us a chicken?
They could ship us little baby chicks, I guess.
What's the price? How much?
Okay, hold on. Order now. Order as few as 6. So if we're gonna do this, we have to commit to at
the
least
minimum.
6. Hold on. I'm looking at this. It says $7.75 for 1 to 5 chickens. That can't be right.
Wait, hold on. I would like to know how many chickens I am receiving. 1 to 5? What does that mean?
Hold on. Okay, chicks. All baby chicks. I want to buy... Wow, there are so many different kinds of chickens. I didn't even know.
Yeah, oh dude, there's so many different types of chickens.
Ooh, I like this one because it looks like furry. It looks kind of like a bear.
Yeah, there's like the black ones with like the furry legs. I forget what they're called.
$5.75 a piece. Damn, I could spend $6 and get a cool, like, thick, hairy chicken.
But you can't have that in an apartment. You gotta like.
Right, but like they'll just ship it to me.
How do you ship a live baby bird?
This can't be right. There's got to be something I'm missing here.
Are they fake?
Is this a prank?
I mean, I think you could probably raise a chick in your apartment. I don't think you could have a chicken in your apartment.
Maybe.
And therein lies the problem.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm moving out of this apartment in like 5 months, so...
Yeah, but you're gonna move into a house that has 5 other people living in it. You can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna make a chicken coop in the backyard.
Yeah, so what's the problem with 1 chicken? There's already 5 people.
And listen, and how many eggs is that? Like, a lot. Like, they lay like 2 a week.
I could buy a quail?
But quail, I guess you could eat quail eggs.
Important. Please read, do not give quail city water.
They want that country water. Yeah. City slickers just don't understand.
They just don't understand. Well, quails are way more expensive. You have to shell out $400 for a quail.
Oh, that's a lot of money for a quail. I could go outside and pick up a quail.
This is $100 for $353. Why can't I just buy 1 quail and also buying 100 quails?
Are you sure these aren't like fertilized eggs?
I mean, yeah, that's what they are, I think.
I don't trust putting an egg in the postal service.
Do people farm quails? How does that work? Why?
I'm sure. Well, people. Yeah, you can buy quail eggs. Someone has to farm them.
Oh, Adeline, we could buy a peacock.
They have peacock farms. I don't know what you do with a peacock once you have a peacock, though.
I don't know either.
Like, with a chicken, you just love the chicken, and the chicken gives you eggs, and you're like, all right, this was an equal exchange. But, like, with a peacock, does it just stare at you and hate you with its little heart full of blackness?
I could buy 2 peacocks for $400.
That's too many. It's too many dollars.
No, they need to be friends.
Wait,
They're available as a juvenile male-female pair. Yeah, they come in 2. They come with a male and female pair.
Okay, yeah, they have to be friends. See, you don't get that with a chicken. You can just have 1 chicken. That's not true. I think you have to have multiple chicken. I don't know how chickens work.
Damn, this rules. I want to buy a peacock so bad.
Jason, don't buy a peacock. That peacock will hate you until it dies. And it's going to live to be like 80. And you're just going to have this peacock that hates you for the rest of your life.
I'm trying to see. A lot of them are sold out. I'm trying to see if any of them.
I have never once met a peacock where I thought this peacock would not want to murder me the second that it got a chance to. I've never met a peacock that I wasn't physically afraid of it harming me.
Yeah, but if you raised it from a babe, you wouldn't have that problem.
I think it would still hate you.
A female white peafowl?
That's what the peacocks at the zoo are, and those peacocks are always trying to eat children.
But the children didn't raise those peacocks from scratch.
No.
Fuck. What would I have to do to have a peacock? Like, straight up.
A lot. You would have to have, like, a big space for it to, like, live, and you would have to have some kind of, like a chicken coop, but for peacocks.
Right. But that
peacock
doesn't seem
coop,
like that
if you
crazy
will.
of a thing to have to do. I'm
I mean,
moving into a house with a backyard soon.
I mean,
can set
like,
up a
regular
peacock
people
zone
have
out there.
chickens.
I'm not talking about chickens.
I know you're not, but I'm saying as a comparison.
Like...
Don't buy a peacock, because you're gonna...
I'm thinking
Because
about
you're gonna
it.
have to move eventually, and you don't want to have to move with a peacock. What if you're in a house with a backyard, and then you gotta move to LA, and
Move
we
from
have to
Salt
live in
Lake
an
City to
apartment?
Los Angeles with a peacock?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with a peacock?
I don't know. Whatever they did to ship it to me in the first place, I could do
But that
to
was when
send
it was
it
an
to Los
egg. That
Angeles.
when it was a teen bird.
It says chicks. It doesn't say eggs.
Are they just gonna mail you a bird? Are they just mailing birds?
I have to know more about this.
Okay, like, if you buy a chicken, I will not be upset. I feel like that would be like Joaquin Jr., that's fine.
Right.
But, like, don't buy a peacock.
Okay. I feel like you have to buy in bulk on this website. If I wanted to get just one, I don't think that would.
It is a hatchery. I think you would have to call them and be like, hey, how do I get one chicken?
Right. 15 heavies. I guess there's a kind of chicken just called a heavy, which is
I love
weird.
them.
I could buy 15 for $40.
That's... Do you...
That's a lot of chickens.
That's a lot. What was it said you could have 5 for $6?
Yeah, somewhere else it said 1 to 5, which I don't know what that means.
Maybe they just send you the eggs, so there's, like, a chance that, like,
Right.
one of the eggs won't work, so they, like, send you 5, and it's just, like, statistically...
Okay, so here's everything available. We'll get off this eventually.
No. This is
first
the
of all-
rest of the podcast.
First of all, I want to support them because they share our name.
Yeah, we're probably 8th cousins.
So you can get chickens. You can
Okay.
get ducks and geese. You can get turkeys.
So you could just take your Chandler cosplay to, like, the next level with this.
You can get guineas. I don't know what a guinea is.
It's like a duck, but different.
Pheasants, peacocks, cranes. I could buy an East African crane.
You can buy your own crane wife.
What?
That's what happens in Crane Wife, right?
Damn, I have to shell out $2,000 for an East African crane. Yeah, that's what happens in The Crane Wife, is somebody buys a crane online and isn't equipped to take care of
And it comes in the mail, and then they open the box, and then it flies out of the box, and they're like, no, my crane wife.
What kind of bird attacks Paul Blart in Paul Blart Mall Cop 2?
I'm gonna be real with you, homie. I don't remember a fuck of what happens in Call Part 2.
Is it a crane? I think it's a crane.
It's probably a crane.
Google, what kind of
Google?
bird kills Paul Blart?
Where does Google go when I'm scared?
Is that a reference to the VeggieTales movie, Where's God
Yes.
When I'm Scared?
Yes.
It is a crane. It is an East African crane. Okay, if I buy an East African crane, I could
You can
reenact
take
Paul
your
Blart
Paul
Mall
Blart
Cop 2.
cosplay to the next level.
God damn it, I want to do that.
There's a lot of cosplay adjacent foul birds that you can buy.
I could buy an ibis?
What's the crane that people mistake for Mothman sometimes? Get one of those.
I don't know. What's the kind of crane that looks like a munchkin hanging itself?
Yeah.
In the Wizard of Oz?
Maybe cranes are haunted, just like as a species.
Look at this. Look at this. I'm sending you a link right now.
Okay.
I can just buy an ibis. We see those at the zoo. If I've got $1,000 laying around, I can just buy an
could just
ibis
have
from
one
the
of them in your
McMurray
house.
hatchery. What did you say?
And you could just have one of those. Just
Yeah.
have it.
As a pet that you're friends with.
But Jackson, they're sacred. You can't just have one.
What do you mean they're sacred? Who says that?
It's a sacred ibis or an opportunistic feeder, in addition to fish, snails, frogs, and
Oh.
insects from the water.
It says that on the website.
And they might also eat the young of other birds.
That's fine.
How do you feed this thing? Do you just?
That's a
you
good
can't
question.
Just
What
give
do
it
they
corn.
eat? Are they scavengers?
It said it just eats whatever.
Just like make another serving of whatever you're making.
No, like whatever
to
it
your
finds
pet
in the
ibis.
water.
This is my new favorite website.
Where the fuck? You could also just buy a turkey, like a full ass turkey.
I
Like,
know,
that's
isn't
fun.
that crazy?
Hey, what's under hatching eggs? Chicken hatching eggs, duck. Oh, these are like eggs that you buy.
Whoa.
What's a Bob White quail?
There's a Bob Hope quail.
A Bob quail.
Check
Oh, they're
out this. This is the coolest fucking turkey
Jax,
I've ever seen.
We should get a gamble quail. Those are the little quails that have like blue heads and they have the thingy on their head.
Yeah. I just sent you a link. This is called a midget white turkey. And it's beautiful. It's like this beautiful, like pure white turkey.
I'm gonna cry.
I want him so bad.
Oh, he's really pretty.
And it only costs $13 for 20 of them.
Jackson, we live in. I guess you don't. Oh, never mind. I was about to say you can't own a pet turkey in Spokane, Washington, because once a year,
right.
when all the rednecks go on their turkey murder spree in order to keep the turkeys out of our neighborhoods, that guy's gone.
They only did that one time.
And they did a bad job. They
Yeah.
couldn't find any of the turkeys.
Okay, so let's tell this story. In Spokane, Washington, they're often in the fall and in the winter, there are turkey problems. A lot of turkeys come out. They like get in the streets and they like kind of back up traffic sometimes. I think they're an invasive species also.
Yeah, it's no bueno.
But so yeah, we got this problem with turkeys. It's not a huge problem, but it is a problem. So
Yeah.
one year they were like, it wasn't even that they were going out and killing turkeys. They were like, I think the most humane way to deal with this is if we all, as a society, just went out and found a whole bunch of turkey nests and smashed up the eggs, right? Like population control.
Yeah.
So they tried to do that, and nobody could find any turkey nests with any eggs in them.
Nobody fucking found where the turkeys were laying their eggs.
and like in the news, they were like, Spokane turkey hunt yields 0 results.
Because I heard that, and it was like, hey, if you like see some turkey eggs, like smash them this year because we're gonna see if this like helps with population control.
Right.
And like as a society, we're like, yeah, all right. And then like a week later, we all turn to the news, and they're like, we can't fucking find any turkey eggs. And in their defense, I don't know where turkeys make their nests.
Of course
like
not.
I don't know where the fuck the turkeys go after they've been done blocking traffic for like an hour, and then they walk back into the woods. Like, I don't know where they go. I don't know what they're doing. That's their business.
Right. And it's like, shouldn't somebody know? Like, it can't just be
Does
a mystery.
anybody know where turkey nests are supposed to be?
Like, there's somebody we could ask about it, right? There's
Like,
gotta be
right?
somebody. Like, some biologist.
Somebody knows where these fucking eggs are, right? You can't just follow a bunch of turkeys till they got to where their nest was. Why did anybody do that?
Do a stakeout. Follow them.
Yeah.
Man. Why did that happen?
The whole thing or just the turkey hunt?
Just the turkey part.
Yeah,
should we get back to the movie?
I don't know whose idea that was, where they were like, it was like that person must have like felt really smart at like the community center when like we've all come together and we're like, all right, we gotta do something about these turkeys. They just like stand in the middle of the road, and I've been late to work like 5 times, and they're also ruining the environment or whatever, but that's not what I care about. And then they're like, okay, well, we don't want to just go around shooting turkeys because that sounds like a bad idea. So here's what we'll do. We'll just go around and we'll smash a bunch of eggs before they turn into turkeys. And everyone was like, oh, Jim is the smartest guy. This is a great idea. Totally humane. This is an excellent idea. Great. Gets rid of all the turkeys. And then they all go out in all their special gear, and they're all so excited to fix this problem. And there's just fucking nothing. They just don't do anything.
Just can't find anything.
They're not, they don't find any eggs.
A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Let's just wrap this up. We've already been going
really
for 90
good.
minutes.
It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, but it was something way cooler than what I thought it was gonna be. So 3 things.
First of all, I like at the end when he like is really honest with himself and about how he's feeling, and when he like talks to his wife and is like brutally honest about why he's doing the things he's doing. I like that. Those are good arcs. I like when people can do that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I try to do as much as I can. Like, if I'm ever, like, upset about something or, like, in a fight with somebody or, like, you know, I try to, like, break down and be like, okay. If I'm being hostile or upset, I'm just going to assume that I'm in the wrong, and I'm going to figure out why I feel this way and what I can do about it.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that I really feel passionately about, like, expressing. I don't know, whatever. I like the little exchange between the guy and his dad, where he's like, "Do you want a drink?" And he's like,
I know, I love that.
"No, I don't think so." It's like, "Not even like a beer?" He's like, "Well, I mean, if you want to drink with me, I'll have a drink if it'll make you happy." And he's like, "Well, I don't want it to make you happy. I just want, if you want a drink, I'll get you a drink." And he's like, "Well, okay, I'll have a beer." He's like, "Well, we don't have any beer." And he's like, "Okay, well, I don't want a beer. We don't have any beer." And he's like, "Okay, fine." And,
he's like, dehydrate.
it's just so funny. I don't like, though, when at the end Mr. Rogers shows up and he's like hanging out with the family. And I mean, I like that, like, in general as a scene, but then the moment where Chris Cooper is like, "Oh, you know, if I'm still even here," and he like mentions that maybe he's about to die, and everyone gets really quiet, and Mr. Rogers is like, "Well, you know, death really isn't so bad." And everyone's like, "Yeah, you know what, Mr. Rogers? You're right. That was really powerful."
Whoa. I think that scene is just an extension of the Mr. Rogers is so nice that sometimes it's uncomfortable and weird, and I think that is a part of that, where he's
I didn't read it that way.
That's how I read it, as it was like, this is a problem that Mr. Rogers has had to talk about before, so he, like, knows how to talk about it, so his family is, like, kind of dealing with it. He's like, "Oh, I have something applicable," and everyone's like, "No, shh, no, shh."
To me, it felt more like Mr. Rogers is so profound and so wonderful that even in these hardest moments, he can say one thing that will really put things in perspective and be this wonderful nugget of wisdom. But I was like, nah, fuck off. Death is scary. Like,
that's not what I got, but go on.
And then he like goes over and whispers in Chris Cooper's ear, and you're like, "What did he say?" And then I think that's actually like a cooler quote, but still, like, before I knew what it was, I was like, "Oh, he whispered some profound wisdom in Chris Cooper's ear that made him not afraid of dying anymore." I was like, but that wasn't the way they played that last part, because he just says that cool thing about how he asked him to pray for him, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice. I like that."
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Anyway. So we spent about 40 minutes of this podcast talking about chickens.
At least it's the bottom half. Like, we had already talked about the movie. When we do that before we've talked about the movie, something's gone wrong.
To be honest, though, I like those episodes better than the ones where we really stay on task. And I feel like that's not uncommon for podcasts like this.
Our niche is that we have no niche, so we're great.
Give me just a minute here, because I didn't find a review beforehand. I put too much effort into my cat's quiz and my trivia that I didn't. Adeline, do you want to hear a 5-star review of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
I sure would like to. That was supposed to be Mr. Rogers, and it just sounded like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
but
it's a little weird.
I would.
Like, Mr. Rogers' real voice and Tom Hanks' voice in this are not really that similar.
No.
Tom Hanks is like, "Oh, won't you be my neighbor? I'm just a sweet little old man." But, like,
I ain't ever hurt nobody.
Mr. Rogers is really more like, "Oh, and won't you be my neighbor?" You know, he's a little louder, you know?
Why am I doing that today?
You're doing it on purpose. Stop it.
I'm not. Mr. Rogers is, like, more of just a dude who's making a TV show, while Tom Hanks is, like, got, like, this, like, energy around him.
Right.
You know?
Anyway, as I was saying, I just started scrolling, and I lost it. I don't know why I started doing that. There we go. Okay.
Cool.
"I am absolutely positive that Fred Rogers was the kindest man on the planet. I never met him or watched the show when I was little, but I miss him so much. Also, best fourth wall break ever."
What? Okay, I blame Deadpool for this society's obsession with the fourth wall break.
It's so dumb.
It's not funny. Shakespeare's been doing it for forever. You're not interesting.
And like
God.
the whole, I mean, look, on a certain level, I get it when Deadpool did it, and it was kind of the first time we'd seen something that was that outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of other movies have done it before that, but they were less popular, so people just think Deadpool did it first.
Pinkie Pie breaking the fourth wall.
But whatever. It's just because, okay, look, it's fucking because of Shrek, okay? Everything that's wrong with media and film now is because of Shrek.
Shrek never talks to the audience.
But here's the thing. Shrek was irreverent. Shrek was forcefully irreverent. I think that domino chain is what produced this obsession with the fourth wall. There's an inherent irreverence.
Shrek was not the first irreverent piece of media, though.
But it was huge. It was huge, and it was specifically irreverent and critical of Disney, of things that are very earnest, right?
Yes.
And it felt very winking, and the audience felt in on the joke. It was the first movie to be that first and foremost before it was a regular story. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And that's why Deadpool exists.
But Shrek is never like, hey, what's up, audience? Do you want to chimichangas? Am I right?
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he didn't do explicitly that. I'm saying that the chain of events kicked off by Shrek is what led to this obsession with...
I'm just saying that you can't compare Deadpool to Shrek. Is that too much to say?
I'm not saying I think you totally can compare Deadpool to Shrek.
I think the fourth wall break is not as winking as they think it is.
Yes, it is. Well, hold on. The fourth wall breaks in Deadpool are literally just Deadpool telling you a joke about a different movie that he's making fun of and the way that other superhero movies are.
The fourth wall break in itself is not an irreverent joke because the point is that other movies don't acknowledge the fourth wall. Like, the fourth wall is not celebrated.
But the kind of person who gets excited about fourth wall breaks only know it as that kind of thing.
That's not the world's fault. That's that person's fault. That person's never read Shakespeare.
Shrek is to Disney animated movies what Deadpool is to superhero movies. It's like almost exactly the same phenomenon.